Ethan leaned back in his chair and rubbed his tired eyes. The small spacecraft he had been working on for months finally hummed to life. It was nothing compared to the massive ships he had seen in movies, but it was his creation, and he felt proud. He was an engineer, always curious, always eager to test his ideas. Today, he planned a short test flight just above the clouds, nothing extreme. Nothing could go wrong, or so he thought. As he lifted off, the small craft vibrated and Ethan's stomach flipped with excitement. The sky stretched endlessly above him, bright blue and clear. But suddenly, the instruments on his console started flashing red. A strange distortion appeared ahead, like water shimmering in sunlight, but it was moving, twisting, pulling him toward it. Before he could react, the spacecraft lurched forward, and everything outside turned into a swirling, blinding light. When he opened his eyes, Ethan was no longer above the clouds. He was floating over a land that seemed alive. Colors were brighter than any he had seen on Earth. Trees glowed softly, rivers sparkled with golden light, and strange creatures moved gracefully across the landscape. His craft landed roughly in a clearing, and he scrambled out, his heart pounding. "What? Where am I?" he muttered. From the forest, a soft hum rose, and the ground beneath him seemed to vibrate with life. Then, from between the trees, a figure appeared. She was tall and elegant, with skin that shimmered like polished metal and eyes that glowed faintly. Her long hair moved as if it had a life of its own. She wore a crown made of crystalline structures, delicate yet intimidating. "I am Queen Lysara," she said, her voice calm but commanding. "You have entered my world uninvited. Who are you?" Ethan stumbled back, unsure whether to bow, run, or both. I'm Ethan, from Earth. I didn't mean to, come here." Lysara's glowing eyes studied him carefully. "Your presence here is not accidental in our eyes. You have crossed the boundary of the Ancient's gate. That carries consequences." "What?" "No, Look, it was a mistake. I don't know how I got here." Ethan tried to explain, but Lysara raised a hand and he fell silent. In a swirl of lights, servants and advisors appeared, surrounding the clearing. Ethan realized they were watching him, waiting. Lysara gestured to a ceremonial area nearby. The ground was carved with symbols that seemed to move subtly under his gaze. "You must participate in the binding ritual," she said. "It is the law of our people. It cannot be undone." Ethan blinked. "Binding what? Look, I think there's a big misunderstanding." Before he could finish, two attendants gently but firmly guided him to the center of the symbols. Lysara began a soft chant in a language Ethan could not understand. The ground glowed, and a strange energy seemed to wrap around him. He tried to pull away, but it felt like invisible hands held him in place. "What's happening? Stop! I didn't agree to this," he shouted. Lysara's expression softened slightly. "You do not speak our language well, but the ritual is clear. By standing here, you have consented, whether you know it or not. You are now my mate." Ethan froze. "Mate?" He laughed nervously, hoping it was a joke. "You... what? I didn't sign anything. I'm not ready for anything." Queen's gaze did not waver. "The words of the ritual are binding. You cannot leave until the process is complete, and the court is watching. They must see this done properly." Panic hit Ethan in waves. He looked around at the assembled figures, tall, regal beings with glowing eyes and intricate robes. They stared at him silently, expecting him to comply. His mind raced. How could he explain he was human, from another planet, and didn't even understand what was happening? Okay, he said, trying to sound calm, though his voice trembled. Let's do this your way then, I guess." Lysara nodded once, and the light around him grew warmer, almost comforting. Ethan's fear slowly shifted to awe. The energy felt strange but not harmful. It was like the world itself was alive, watching, breathing with him. After what felt like hours but was likely only minutes, the ritual ended. Lysara extended her hand. "You are now bound to me. You may speak freely, but the law recognizes you as my mate. You may not leave until you have learned the ways of our world." Ethan shook his head in disbelief. "Mate, you mean like married, with all the stuff?" "Your term is crude," Lysara said, a faint smile on her lips. "But yes, you are bound to me in every sense that matters to us. You will live here, learn, and participate in the life of our people." Ethan's mind spun. His life on Earth, his work, his friends, everything he knew, it felt gone in an instant. And yet, looking at Lysara, he saw no cruelty, only strength and wisdom. Somehow, despite the impossible situation, he felt curious. Okay. I guess I'll try to understand," he said weakly, rubbing the back of his neck. "Where do I even start?" Lysara's smile widened slightly. "First, you will learn our language, our ways, and our technology. Then, you will meet the council and participate in the governance of the kingdom. You have much to learn, Ethan of Earth." And so, with a mix of fear, awe, and reluctant excitement, Ethan followed the queen into her magnificent city. Towers of light shimmered above, and streets were alive with citizens who moved with grace and purpose. Creatures unlike any he had seen walked among them, and machines flew silently overhead. For Ethan, the accidental journey that had begun as a simple test flight was now the start of something far bigger. His world, and the world of humans, would never be the same. Little did he know, the skills, creativity, and courage that made humans remarkable would soon prove invaluable on this strange and beautiful planet. And for the first time, he realized that being bound to an alien queen might not just be a mistake, it might be the most extraordinary adventure of his life. Ethan walked behind Queen Lysara, staring at the city around him in disbelief. The streets were wide and smooth, glowing faintly beneath the citizens' feet. Towering buildings stretched high into the sky, their surfaces shifting in color and shape as if alive. Machines hovered silently, carrying people and goods. Strange creatures, some with wings, some with many legs, moved through the crowds, all behaving with perfect coordination. "I've never seen anything like this," Ethan muttered. "It's beautiful, but also confusing." Lysara glanced. At him, a faint smile on her glowing face. "You will learn. Everything here has purpose, balance, and harmony. You must observe, listen, and adapt." Ethan tried to nod seriously but felt overwhelmed. He had just been pulled into an alien world and, apparently, married its queen. How was he supposed to adapt so quickly? They entered a large palace filled with light that seemed to flow like liquid across the walls. Advisors and officials stood in rows, bowing as they passed. Lysara introduced Ethan as her mate, and whispers rippled through the court. Some gazed at him with curiosity, others with skepticism. "Observe carefully, Ethan," Lysara said softly. "Some will test you. Our traditions demand it." Ethan's stomach tightened. Test him? He had survived Earth's engineering labs, but could he survive an alien court? The first challenge came almost immediately. A tall official stepped forward, speaking in rapid, melodic words. Lysara turned to Ethan and said, "They question your readiness. Answer honestly and with respect." Ethan swallowed, nodded, and tried to mimic what he thought was a respectful bow. "I come from Earth. I don't know your ways yet, but I want to learn. I promise to respect your laws and traditions." The official's glowing eyes narrowed, but after a tense moment, he inclined his head. Ethan let out a quiet sigh of relief. Over the next few days, Ethan was introduced to alien customs, language, and technology. Everything was strange. Words formed in musical tones, gestures held precise meanings, and machines responded to thoughts as easily as spoken commands. Ethan made mistakes constantly. He knocked over delicate floating instruments, misunderstood commands, and accidentally offended a minor noble. Each time he apologized with sincere honesty, which Lysara gently reminded her people was the human way. Despite the mistakes, Ethan noticed something important. His human way of thinking was different from the aliens. He looked at problems in ways they did not. One day, a group of engineers struggled to fix a malfunctioning transport pod. The alien solution involved complex recalibrations, but Ethan, thinking simply, suggested a different approach. "What if you reroute the energy flow here?" he asked, pointing. The engineers looked at him as if he had grown extra eyes. A few moments later, the pod hummed back to life. A cheer went up from the assistants. Lysara's eyes glowed brighter, and she nodded at him approvingly. "See, Ethan, your mind is valuable. You think differently. That is why humans are remarkable." Ethan felt a flicker of pride. He had always known humans were clever, but being told it by an alien queen made it feel extraordinary. Not everyone was happy, however. Some officials and nobles whispered among themselves, clearly displeased that a human, an outsider, was gaining respect. Ethan noticed glances filled with suspicion, some even anger. Lysara did not ignore it. "You must be cautious," she told him one evening as they walked through a palace garden. Bioluminescent plants lit their path, and streams of glowing water ran beside them. "Not all will accept your presence. Some see you as a threat to our traditions." "I get that," Ethan said. "But what can I do? I didn't ask for any of this. I just ended up here." "True," Lysara said softly. "But now you are here. You must decide what you will do. You can resist and risk being an outcast, or you can learn and use your abilities to help. You have a choice, Ethan." Ethan nodded slowly. He realized she was right. Fighting everything might only make his life harder, but if he tried, maybe he could find a place here, not just as a bound mate, but as someone who mattered. The next challenge came sooner than expected. The court announced a public festival, a ceremony of skill and intelligence. Every new member of the court had to demonstrate their abilities. Ethan's heart raced. He had no idea what humans could do that aliens would find impressive. When his turn arrived, Ethan stepped onto the stage, hands trembling. The audience watched silently. A device hovered in front of him, a complex puzzle of lights, energy, and movement. Aliens had spent decades learning it, yet he was expected to solve it in minutes. Ethan looked at it, took a deep breath, and thought differently. Instead of following the expected patterns, he observed the flow of energy and found a shortcut humans might notice but aliens overlooked. He acted quickly, rearranging the energy channels. The puzzle completed in half the time expected. Gasps echoed through the hall. Lysara's smile was radiant. Even skeptical nobles stared, some openly impressed, others hiding shock behind polite expressions. "You see, Ethan," Lysara said, her voice ringing through the hall. "Humans have creativity. You adapt. You find solutions when others cannot. That is why the galaxy must not underestimate your kind." Ethan blinked. He had never felt so proud yet so terrified. He was just a human, a simple engineer from Earth. And yet, here he was, showing aliens something they had never imagined. After the festival, as the city lights glimmered in the evening sky, Ethan and Lysara walked back to the palace. "Humans are different," Lysara said quietly. "And that difference is important." Ethan smiled weakly. "I guess I can get used to it, but wow, this world, this life, never in my wildest dreams did I imagine anything like this." Lysara looked at him with warmth. Your adventure has only begun, Ethan. Soon, the challenges will grow bigger. But you have shown courage and ingenuity already. That is why I chose to keep you at my side. Ethan took a deep breath, realizing that even though he had accidentally wed an alien queen, he was beginning to see a place for himself in this strange, beautiful world. For the first time, he felt something he had never expected. Not fear, but excitement. He was no longer just a visitor from Earth. He was part of something far greater, something that might change both his life and the fate of a civilization. And in the quiet glow of the alien city, Ethan knew that nothing would ever be the same again. The next morning, Ethan awoke to the soft hum of the palace. Sunlight streamed through the high, glowing windows, painting the walls with colors that seemed to shift as he watched. He sat on the edge of his bed, rubbing his face. The events of the previous days, the ritual, the festival, the strange alien world, still felt like a dream, but it was no dream. He was married to an alien queen, and now he had responsibilities. A messenger arrived quickly, bowing before him. "Sir Ethan, the council requests your presence. There are matters requiring your attention." Ethan groaned. "Matters? I'm not even sure I understand their language half the time." Lysara appeared in the doorway, her shimmering presence calm but commanding. "You have impressed the people, Ethan, but influence brings attention, both good and bad. You must meet the council." Walking through the palace halls, Ethan noticed the citizens watching him with curiosity. Some whispered to one another, pointing. A few officials scowled openly. He could feel the tension in the air. The council chamber was enormous. Lights floated in the air like stars, and the walls displayed scenes of the planet's history, alive, with movement. The council members were seated in a semicircle, all glowing faintly and wearing intricate robes. Their eyes studied Ethan carefully. Lysara spoke first. "Council, this is Ethan of Earth, my mate. He has shown ingenuity and courage. I ask that you hear him." One of the senior officials, a tall figure with 4 arms, leaned forward. "Queen, Lysara, we respect your choice, but this human, he is untested. How can we trust him with matters of state?" Ethan swallowed. He had expected this. Humans had always been outsiders, clever in many ways, but not accepted in alien politics. "I understand your doubts," he said, his voice steady despite the nervousness in his stomach. "I come from a world where we face challenges differently. I may not know all your ways yet, but I can help solve problems. I only ask for the chance to try." A murmur spread across the chamber. Some looked skeptical, others curious. Lysara's eyes glowed brighter. "That is all I ask. Give him the chance, and judge by results, not fear." The council agreed to a trial. Ethan would assist with a project that had stumped the kingdom's engineers for months, a fleet of transport drones that failed to stabilize in high-gravity regions. The aliens had tried complex algorithms, energy redistributions, and mechanical tweaks, yet the drones always faltered. Ethan studied the fleet, observing patterns they had missed. Instead of adjusting the drones mechanically, he suggested rethinking the energy distribution completely, a simpler and more adaptable solution. "You mean what humans call thinking outside the box?" one of the engineers asked, skeptically. "Exactly," Ethan said with a nervous laugh. "Sometimes the solution isn't fixing the problem the way it exists. It's changing the problem so it works naturally." The engineers worked under his guidance, hesitant at first. But within hours, the drones stabilized perfectly, moving smoothly through high-gravity areas. The council watched in silence, then erupted into murmurs of astonishment. Lysara's expression was proud, and Ethan felt a thrill he had never known before. "You have done what our best could not," Lysara said softly. "This is why humans are remarkable. You see possibilities where others see limits." Despite his success, not everyone was pleased. A group of nobles had been openly hostile, whispering that Ethan was disrupting tradition, undermining authority, and bringing danger to the queen's rule. Ethan overheard them while walking through the palace gardens at night. One of the nobles, a slender figure with sharp eyes, hissed, "If she relies on him too much, our world may fall. He does not belong here." Ethan clenched his fists. He had never faced this level of politics before. On Earth, problems could be solved with machines and math. Here, the rules were different. Yet he realized something important. Humans had strengths beyond technology, courage, honesty, and the ability to inspire others. The next challenge came unexpectedly. Lysera summoned Ethan to the city gates. A group of alien diplomats had arrived from a neighboring empire. They were known for their ambition and cunning, and they had heard about Ethan's presence. Many assumed the human would be a weak link, an easy way to influence the queen. Ethan stepped forward with Lysera by his side, trying to mask his fear. The diplomats scrutinized him, their voices low and harsh. They mocked his human appearance and laughed at his nervous gestures. But when a disagreement arose about resource allocations, Ethan spoke clearly, logically, and with confidence. He suggested a compromise that no alien diplomat had considered, one that benefited both sides. The council members, observing closely, were impressed. Even the rival diplomats paused, reluctant to argue further. Lysera placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder, her eyes gleaming. "Do you see? Courage and clear thinking can change the minds of even the most stubborn." Over the following days, Ethan learned the delicate balance of power. He observed the factions in the court, some seeking influence, others testing his limits. Each time, he relied on honesty, reasoning, and his human perspective to navigate challenges. Slowly, he earned respect, not just from Lysera, but from the citizens and even skeptical nobles. One evening, Lysera took Ethan to the palace balcony. The sky glowed with twin moons, and the city below shimmered like a river of lights. "You have done well," Lysera said. "You are learning not only our ways, but how to use your human qualities here. You are different, Ethan, and that difference is becoming our strength." Ethan stared at the city, feeling the weight of his new responsibilities. "I never thought I'd be in a place like this," he said. "Married to a queen, running politics, solving problems I don't even understand sometimes." Lysera smiled. "And yet you are doing it. Humans are remarkable, Ethan. They survive, adapt, and inspire. You are proof of that. But remember, this is only the beginning. Greater challenges are coming." Ethan swallowed, feeling both fear and excitement. He had survived the first trials, gained respect, and even helped solve real problems. But he understood Lysera was right. The world he had stumbled into was vast and full of dangers he could not yet imagine. Still, for the first time, he felt a sense of belonging. Not just as an outsider or a visitor, but as someone who mattered. He was no longer just Ethan from Earth. He was Ethan, the human mate of an alien queen, a bridge between worlds, and a mind capable of changing a civilization. And though he did not know what the future held, one thing was certain: his life and the fate of this alien world would never be the same. The morning air on Lysera's world was crisp and alive with light. Ethan stood on the palace balcony, watching ships glide silently above the city. He had grown used to the strange beauty of this planet, but today, something felt different. A tension ran through the streets, subtle but unmistakable. Lysera joined him, her expression serious. "Reports have arrived from our borders," she said. "A neighboring empire grows aggressive. They do not welcome our leadership, and they see your presence as a weakness. They believe we can be pressured, perhaps even invaded." Ethan's stomach twisted. War? He had studied strategy, but only in simulations. He had never commanded armies. They think I make you weak?" he asked, incredulous. They underestimate you, Lysera said, which is fortunate. Your thinking is different, and that is why we must prepare carefully. Within hours, the palace buzzed with activity. Commanders, engineers, and strategists gathered to discuss defense. Drones, ships, and energy shields were inspected and recalibrated. Ethan was invited to contribute. At first, he hesitated, unsure of his value in war planning. But when Lysera asked for his insight, he realized this was not a ceremonial role. His ideas could make a real difference. The first problem was simple in concept but deadly in practice. The enemy had fast ships capable of outmaneuvering their defenses. Traditional alien tactics relied on predictable energy grids, which the enemy could exploit. Ethan suggested using a human-inspired approach, unpredictable patterns, feints, and random timing, to confuse the invaders. The generals frowned. Unpredictable patterns are chaotic. Our ships require order. Ethan shook his head. Not chaos, adaptive strategy. If the enemy cannot anticipate us, they cannot exploit us. Humans rely on creativity to survive. This works. After much debate, Lysera supported him. We will try his method. I trust his judgment. The first battle came at dusk. Ethan stood on the command deck, heart pounding, as the alien fleet engaged the intruders. His suggested formations and maneuvers were implemented, and at first the enemy seemed to gain the upper hand. Then, Ethan's human strategies began to take effect. The unpredictable shifts in movement caused the invaders to collide, overextend, and falter. Lysera watched him closely, pride and awe in her glowing eyes. You see, Ethan? Your way of thinking. Humans can turn the tide when others fail. Ethan grinned nervously, adrenaline surging. I'm just doing what humans do. We improvise. The battle continued for hours. Ethan suggested small adjustments. In real time, rerouting energy flows, shifting drones, and even using decoy ships to lure the enemy into traps. Slowly, victory came into sight. The invaders, unable to predict human ingenuity, began to retreat. When the battle finally ended, the city erupted in celebration. Citizens cheered, drones glided overhead in choreographed patterns, and Lysera personally thanked Ethan. Your courage and ideas have saved us today, she said. You are no longer an outsider. You are one of us. Yet even in victory, danger lingered. Reports indicated that the neighboring empire would not give up easily. They were regrouping, preparing for a larger offensive. Ethan understood that this war would test him in ways he had never imagined. Over the next days, he worked tirelessly. He adapted alien technology with human logic, creating energy shields that could adjust mid-battle, ships that could change, shape for speed, and systems that allowed for flexible tactics. The palace, once daunting and confusing, became a hub of collaboration between human and alien minds. Ethan also trained with Lysera. She was not only a ruler, but a formidable warrior, moving with grace and strength. He learned how to wield alien weapons and understand battlefield tactics, combining their strengths. During one training session, she remarked, "Your mind is your greatest weapon, Ethan. Use it, and you can change the outcome of any battle." As the second invasion drew near, Ethan suggested an unusual tactic. Instead of attacking directly, they would focus on protecting key resources while letting decoy areas appear vulnerable. The enemy would waste energy on false targets, while the main fleet could strike decisively. The plan was risky. Many generals hesitated, fearing failure. Lysera, however, nodded at Ethan. We will follow your guidance. We trust in human adaptability. The attack began at night. Ethan's strategy worked perfectly. The invaders fell into traps, their formations breaking under unpredictable human tactics. Drones and ships adapted in real time, following patterns no alien opponent could anticipate. The battle was brutal, but the humans' influence had tipped the balance. By dawn, the enemy fleet was scattered, retreating beyond the borders. The citizens hailed Ethan as a hero. Even skeptical council members admitted that his ideas had been crucial. Lysara's people began to see humans in a new light, not as fragile outsiders, but as clever, courageous allies capable of turning the tide of war. Later, as Ethan rested in the palace garden, Lysara approached. The twin moons reflected on the streams of glowing water. "You have changed our world, Ethan," she said softly. "Not just with machines or strategies, but with your mind, your courage, your perspective. Humans are exceptional." Ethan shook his head, laughing lightly. "I'm just one human. I didn't mean to change anything. I was trying to survive." "Survival is only part of it," Lysara said. "Humans do not only survive, they adapt, they inspire, and they overcome. You have reminded my people of that today. You are remarkable, Ethan, and I am proud to call you my mate." Ethan felt a warmth he had never known. His life on Earth seemed like a distant memory, yet he no longer feared this alien world. Instead, he felt purpose, connection, and excitement for what came next. The war had revealed something vital. Humans were not weak, and they were not outsiders. Even a single human could turn the tide of battle, alter the course of civilizations, and earn the respect of an entire world, and Ethan realized that this was only the beginning. Greater challenges, larger threats, and more incredible adventures awaited. But for now, he allowed himself a moment of pride and relief. He had survived the impossible, and in doing so had begun to show the aliens, his new world, that humans were more than just visitors. They were forces to be reckoned with. After the war, Ethan's life settled into a new rhythm. The palace was quieter now, but his responsibilities had only grown. He no longer simply followed Lysara's lead. He actively participated in the governance of her world. Citizens and council members looked to him for advice, curious about this human who had helped win the war. Ethan walked through the streets of the city, observing everything with careful eyes. The citizens moved with calm efficiency, yet he noticed areas where small improvements could make life easier. Roads could be optimized for hover vehicles, energy grids could be adjusted to reduce waste, and some of the smaller machines could be made simpler to operate. He approached Lysara in her council chamber, sketches and notes in hand. "I've been thinking," he said. "Some of your systems could benefit from what we call human logic. Simple changes can improve efficiency without losing elegance." Lysara smiled. "Show me." Together, they walked through the palace and city, discussing potential adjustments. Ethan demonstrated a new way to distribute energy in public lighting, saving resources while enhancing beauty. He redesigned the storage systems for food and materials, making them easier for citizens to use. Each suggestion was small but practical. Council members watched skeptically at first. Then, as results appeared, murmurs of approval spread. The citizens began to see Ethan not only as the Queen's mate, but as someone who brought tangible benefits to their lives. "Humans think differently," Lysara told Ethan privately one evening. "You see solutions where others see only tradition. That is why your presence matters." Ethan felt a surge of pride. He had never imagined his skills would have such impact. On Earth, he had been just another engineer. Here, he was helping shape the future of an entire civilization. One day, a delegation arrived from Earth. They had detected the wormhole Ethan had passed through and were curious about his fate. Ethan explained carefully, showing them the city, the technology, and the Queen. They were astonished. Humans had never interacted with aliens on this scale. Ethan realized the importance of being a bridge between worlds. He began introducing human ideas to the council, blending Earth concepts with alien traditions. Education was restructured to include critical thinking, creativity, and problem-solving. Trade systems were adjusted to encourage innovation. Citizens adapted quickly, and many began to embrace human perspectives alongside their own. Through all of this, Ethan and Lysera's bond deepened. They spent long hours discussing strategy, philosophy, and dreams. Lysera learned about Earth, its people, and its history, while Ethan learned about the alien planet's science, culture, and traditions. Their partnership was no longer just ceremonial, it was real, grounded in respect, trust, and shared goals. One evening, as they walked along a bridge over a glowing river, Lysera spoke quietly. Your world, your people, have great potential. Together, we could share knowledge and build connections. Humans and my people could become allies for the galaxy. Ethan nodded, staring at the sparkling water. I've always believed humans can do more than we think. Maybe now we finally have the chance to prove it, to more than just ourselves. As weeks passed, Ethan's influence expanded. New inventions and policies improved life for the citizens. Drones became more efficient. Transport was safer, and communication systems linked distant regions instantly. Citizens began calling him the Human Innovator, a title that made Ethan blush, but also gave him a sense of purpose he had never known on Earth. However, not all challenges were technical. Some council members and nobles still resisted changes, fearing that human influence would weaken traditions. Ethan faced criticism, accusations, and whispers of rebellion. But he remained calm, responding with patience, reason, and sometimes a touch of humor. One morning, an urgent message arrived. A nearby region suffered from a natural disaster. Massive storms threatened to destroy infrastructure and endanger lives. Ethan immediately coordinated relief efforts. Using human-inspired strategies, he deployed drones, redirected energy supplies, and organized citizens into effective teams. Within hours, the damage was minimized, and lives were saved. Lysera watched in awe. You have not only helped us win battles, she said, but you have saved lives and shown the value of human thinking. Your people, though far away, would be proud. Ethan shook his head. I just did what humans do when faced with a problem. We act, we adapt, we help. News of the disaster response spread across the planet. Citizens who had once doubted him now hailed him as a hero. Even the skeptics began to accept that humans were more than simple outsiders. They were valuable, capable allies. In private moments, Ethan and Lysera reflected on how far they had come. What began as a shocking, accidental marriage had grown into a partnership that changed a world. They laughed about the misunderstandings, the rituals, and the moments of panic that had once seemed terrifying. Now those memories felt like the first steps of a journey neither would forget. As night fell, the city shimmered under the twin moons. Ethan looked at Lysera, feeling a deep sense of connection. I never imagined this life, he said softly. But maybe I was meant to be here. Maybe humans are meant to make a difference no matter where we end up. Lysera's eyes glowed with warmth. You have reminded us of the strength and ingenuity humans bring. You have changed hearts and minds, Ethan, and together we will face the future stronger than ever. For Ethan, the realization was simple but profound. Being human was not a limitation. It was a gift. A gift that could inspire, innovate, and improve worlds, even ones far beyond Earth. And in that moment, standing with Lysera and looking out over the city they had helped guide into a brighter future, Ethan understood that his life, and the lives of countless others, would never be the same. He had accidentally wed an alien queen. But in doing so, he had discovered something far greater: purpose, respect, and the ability of humans to shine in ways no one had imagined. And the galaxy was beginning to notice. David never thought life would bring him here. standing at the balcony of a crystal palace, watching three suns rise over the alien world of Zira. Just months ago, he was only an engineer, fixing broken machines, drinking coffee late at night, and worrying about bills. Now, he was the husband of Queen Seraphina, ruler of a galactic empire. And the strange part was, he didn't feel out of place anymore. The war with the rival factions had ended weeks ago. The last enemy fleet had surrendered, and the galaxy had watched in silence as a human, standing beside the queen, declared peace. Many leaders were shocked. Some laughed at first. But when Seraphina swore loyalty to David as her chosen consort, nobody dared question it again. For the first time, humans were no longer hidden behind their little blue planet. They were part of the galactic stage. Life inside the palace was strange, but not unpleasant. David had guards who followed him everywhere, bowing as he passed. Alien servants brought him food that shimmered with colors he had never seen before. Though thankfully the kitchen learned to cook him eggs, bread, and coffee. At first he felt awkward. But Seraphina often reminded him, "You are not just a guest here, David. You are my equal." Her words carried weight. In the council hall, when alien nobles tried to dismiss him, she silenced them with one sharp look. And yet David noticed something new. More and more aliens were starting to respect him, not because of Seraphina's command, but because of his actions. He had suggested rebuilding war-damaged cities with better energy systems, taught engineers about human problem-solving, and even fixed a royal shuttle with nothing but scrap. Word spread quickly. The Queen's human was not just a symbol. He was clever, practical, and fearless. One evening, as the two sat on the balcony, Seraphina leaned close. Her silver eyes reflected the starlight. "When I first met you," she said softly, "I thought you were a mistake, a twist of fate forced by an old ritual. But now I know better. You are the bridge my people needed, someone who sees differently." David chuckled. "And here I thought I was just the guy who tripped into an alien marriage ceremony." She laughed gently, a sound like wind chimes. "Perhaps fate knew better than either of us." Peace did not mean everything was easy. Many alien lords whispered in secret. Some were jealous that a human, one from an unknown world, now stood beside their queen. Spies watched him. Assassins even tried once, slipping into the palace at night. But David was not alone. Seraphina's royal guards defended him fiercely, and David himself refused to hide in fear. When he caught one assassin trying to tamper with his shuttle, he didn't run. Instead, he disarmed the alien with a wrench and held him until guards arrived. The story spread quickly. The human king fought his own battles. For the common people, that changed everything. Markets filled with chatter about him. Children cheered when they saw him ride through the city. Farmers asked him for advice about tools. He was no longer just the Queen's strange mate. He was becoming a leader in his own right. The Galactic Council eventually summoned them. It was the first time David would stand before the rulers of dozens of civilizations. The chamber was vast, filled with voices in hundreds of languages, but when Seraphina and David entered, silence followed. A scaled ambassador hissed, "Human of Earth, do you truly claim kingship over one of our empires?" David stood tall, his heart beating fast. He could feel every eye on him, waiting for weakness. But he spoke in a steady voice. "I never claimed a throne. I never wanted power. But when war came, I stood by my wife, and together we ended it. If that makes me a king in your eyes, so be it. But I am not here for titles. I am here for peace." The words echoed. Even the council chamber used to pride and threats fell silent. Seraphina's hand touched his, proud and steady. That day, many rulers saw humans in a new light, not as fragile newcomers, but as a force that could not be ignored. Weeks later, back in the palace, Serafina prepared for a great festival. For the first time, Earth's representatives were invited to Zera. David's old friends, scientists, and even his sister would soon arrive. Humanity would see alien towers of crystal, oceans that glowed under moons, and skies filled with ships, the size of mountains. David smiled as he imagined their wide eyes. Once, Earth had thought it was alone. Now, because of one accident, one strange wedding, everything had changed. The night before the festival, Serafina looked at him. "David, do you regret it? Leaving your old life behind?" He thought for a long moment. He remembered the small apartment, the quiet streets, the ordinary days. Then he looked at her, at the stars beyond, at the empire that now called him their protector. "No," he said finally, "because with you, my world didn't. And it grew bigger than I ever dreamed." She smiled, and together they watched the stars. Thus, the story of the human who accidentally wed an alien queen spread across the galaxy. Some called him the unexpected king. Others called him the bridge between worlds. But to David, he was simply himself, an ordinary man who stumbled into love, war, and destiny. And in that strange new future, humanity's place among the stars was forever secured.